Hello, mindful friends. Today we're going to be talking about forgiveness and its role on our path towards a peaceful, purposeful, happy life. And how some of us forget that this is such a big part of our healing. Because the angers and resentments that we hold on to and the divisions that this kind of non-forgiveness creates is what generates even more suffering in our lives and kind of blocks us off from the transformative energies of moving forward, healing, understanding, and growth. And how this forgiveness, sometimes we forget that it doesn't just have to be towards one wrongdoer in our lives that did something directly to us. We think about the people closest to us in our lives, but that we also harness forgiveness for what's happened in society, for past choices of humanity, for choices that are going on right now. And what I notice is the contrast between non-forgiveness holds that resentment, holds things at a distance, holds that anger in our hearts towards the other, whoever it is. And the forgiveness, just like we talked about with love, in my understanding of forgiveness, has a lot to do with understanding, right? It doesn't mean that we have to agree. It doesn't mean that we have to be okay with things, or even that we have to let these people or these behaviors into our lives. That's not the idea around forgiveness. But the understanding behind it means, we don't have to invite it in, but yet we can work towards a closeness with it that develops a deeper understanding of the suffering that caused that behavior. So you're not saying it's okay what you're doing, or the behavior is okay, or the words, or the actions that they've done. You're not saying it's okay, I'll let it back in. You're saying I'm open in heart and mind to understanding the why. And just like with love, when there's understanding there, almost always forgiveness occurs more naturally and easily. Because we don't just see the negative behavior, we see the suffering behind it. And we see that suffering could create that same behavior in any of us. It's the suffering and the misunderstandings, the misconceptions and perceptions that generate a lot of the behavior and attitudes that end up harming us and all of society. And it's easier, I think, to approach forgiveness in this way. If I just want to understand a little bit better and open my heart into compassion in this situation, rather than approaching from I have to forgive this, this one act and just focusing on that act and how you're going to let that go, can be really hard if there isn't understanding, because it's like a forced kind of feeling. I can't really forgive that because honestly, I don't forgive because we don't understand. So the understanding seems to me to be a more approachable way to go towards that forgiveness. And I've been thinking about this a lot. For me, it's more towards humanity and the way that we've been treating each other and our planet, the atrocities that have happened in our past, and working on forgiving that in all of us, even in my ancestors, in myself, in how we treat each other and the world. And I see myself holding anger for that, holding hatred and division because of those things. And bringing forgiveness into that, to me, means understanding how my ancestors or our past or those parts of society might have ended up there. And the truth is that we didn't live their experience. We didn't go through what they were going through. We weren't told that the same as them of what was important and what they had to do to protect themselves or protect their own. We didn't understand really the types of marketing or propaganda that they were receiving. And even now it's the same thing. The other groups of people, we don't understand what they've heard, the sources that have come to them from media, from social media, news. We don't understand that. We also don't understand where they're coming from, exactly the experiences in their lives and the fears that they have and why, and what they're really trying to protect. And so when I lean a little bit more into understanding what they were told would protect their families, their lives, their best interests, and as I understand that a little bit more, it softens my anger towards the way that they have behaved or what they had done. And it doesn't make it right. It's not like we're saying, okay, well, it's fine and you could continue that behavior. But this kind of forgiveness is actually forgiveness that helps the transformation come. Because when we lean in and we want to understand, that understanding develops our path forward into how to do it differently or how to transform those energies that created that behavior in them. Whereas if we're not forgiving and we're not opening up to listening and that understanding, we close ourselves off from the teachings of that experience. We box ourselves in. We don't want to hear what actually happened. We don't want to hear their side of the story. We don't want to, relive that experience. And then there's no growth that can come from that. We have created a stale environment where everything just stays locked in. And I'm sure you all have experienced this, where your anger of the past, your unwillingness to forgive, what does it do? It doesn't, there's no air in it, there's no life in it, there's no transformation. It just gets stuck in you, stuck in your body, stuck in your heart. Oftentimes it replays for us, right? We think in our minds that non-forgiveness keeps us vigilant and protected because we're always on a lookout. It's actually the exact opposite. Because you've created that non-learning, stale environment, it repeats again. We do the same things over because we haven't dove into it and learned and transformed. But we assume, but I'm keeping that, close at hand so that I don't let that happen to me again. But again, you're creating this stale, non-life entity there that cannot transform. And so when we want that healing to come and we want to kind of protect ourselves from that experience again, the forgiveness is what gets us there, because it's what helps us to open up, to learn, to lean in, to reconnect, and then to apply what we have learned from that, the growth tools that we have developed from that to the next generation or situation, and helps us to do it differently the next time. So forgiveness to me really starts with and really is about opening up to understanding, to asking the questions, to leaning in, to finding out their why, what was behind their story and what happened there. And even in ourselves, your why were you vulnerable in that way or receptive to that treatment in that way? And that leaning in and that development of understanding forgiveness comes quite naturally because it's like a light bulb that goes off. Oh, of course, if I was hurting in that way, or if I had that view of myself or the world, I would act in that way, or I would have allowed that kind of treatment or behavior. And then that leads towards your learning in it and your growth opportunity of, all right, I see that. Now I see what kind of nurturing would have kind of helped me not be in that mode of being. And I can kind of see a next step on how to get there. So if you're having the same issue as me with holding on to this anger towards whatever it is, another person or humanity in general, we've treated ourselves, see if your first step could be to turn on that curiosity and start looking for a bit of understanding of what was going on at that time. What was going on within them? What were their motivations, their priorities, their biggest values? And why were those their biggest values? What were they told that would do for them? The beliefs around where that would get them, or what it meant about their position in life, their safety, or their well-being. And that understanding, I guarantee, will start opening your door in just a little crack towards true forgiveness. If you enjoy these talks and would like to join us for group sessions, you can visit us at newleafmindfulness.com. You can find these teachings. I actually have a whole chapter in this book on forgiveness and many more in my book, Living from the Heart, Healing Ourselves So We Can Heal the World. You can find that anywhere you buy your audio or print content. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I hope to see you all very soon.